Some copier companies make televisions. Mita doesn't. Some make clock radios. Mita wouldn't hear of it. You see, we believe the best way to make better copiers is to make nothing but copiers. A philosophy that's helped me to create some of the most remarkable copiers anywhere. After all, we didn't get to be the fastest growing copier company by making cameras. Mita, all we make are great copiers. Call 1-800-ABC-MITA.
At Aqueduct today, there was a card of 7 races for $10 million, the Breeders' Cup Championship Series, and in the Classic race, the 7th and the final one of the day, Proud Truth the winner over Gate Dancer. ESPN Saturday Night CFA football coming your way tonight from the Southwest Conference. The Mustangs of SMU taking on the Aggies of Texas A&M. That's at 7:30 Eastern Time. I'm David Sullivan. Another update will be coming up shortly. Up next is Speedweek.
On Speedweek, the Iron Man snatches another.
East is uplifted in the West.
And pro ralliers press on regardless.
This and more coming up on Speedweek. Is brought to you by BF Goodrich, makers of high-performance TA radials. We make cars perform. And by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Jenkins. Welcome to Speedweek.
And I'm Larry Newber. The Martinsville Speedway in Virginia is one of the best-kept racetracks in the country. And it was the scene of a NASCAR triple-header this past weekend.
The NASCAR late model sportsman chase went right down to the final race. The Royal candidates, a couple of veterans, won. Jack Ingram, already a many-time champion. This was also the last race of these cars under that title. More on that later. With a report on the race itself, here's John Kernan.
Ingram started the race from the 13th spot and needed to move up to at least an 8th place finish to assure himself of the points championship. And to say the least, Jack went into the race looking to drive defensively. On the other hand, Tommy Ellis out of Richmond, Virginia was on the offensive all day long. Early in the race, he moved up on the leaders and let outside pole sitter Jimmy Hensley know that he'd get around one way or another. And the move came on lap 37 as Ellis moved around the 00 car into second place. And it didn't take him long to get around pole sitter Brett Bodine, who won the spring sportsman race at Martinsville. Ellis took the lead at lap 39 and was never challenged again in the 200-lap event. At the same time, Hensley, who went into the race trailing Ingram by 39 points, began to fall back and soon saw number 11 filling up his rearview mirror. But as the laps wound down, Hensley moved up another spot to finish third, while Ingram came home fifth, good enough to give him a record 5th National Sportsman driving title.
Well, it's the tops, because number one, it wasn't decided until here today. And before, always, most of the time, it was decided before I came here, and it was just anticlimactic. And here we are. We got to finish 8th. Jimmy's got to win, and that's all everybody talks about. It started getting on nerves a little bit.
For Ellis, this marked his first victory at Martinsville, while Larry Pearson in number 21 finished second. John Kernan reporting for Speedweek.
The final NASCAR late model sportsman points show that Ingram finished 29 ahead of Hensley. Larry Pearson was third, followed by Tommy Houston and Dale Jarrett.
The accompanying late model stock car race was comprised primarily of local drivers, but there were a few familiar-sounding last names. The red and yellow 82 of Southerner Barry Beggarly, Pelham, North Carolina, set fast time at over 87 miles an hour, a new stock record. It was close the first half, and then all helter-skelter broke out behind him. Sid Carmine's whips around, and it's seek-shoulder time, and it takes a few seconds for it all to end. Jay Hedgecock and young Butch Avakis, one of those old names, precision drove to second and third. Ray's son, Roy Hendricks, was third in Mid-Atlantic points last year and fourth in today's race. Last year's champ of these cars, Elton Sawyer, and Todd, younger brother of Brett and Jeff Bodine, raced, but nobody was a match for Beggarly, who won 3,200.
Race number 3 at Martinsville, the NASCAR Modifieds. Drivers from the Northeast dominate this type of competition, but the man in 57, Virginia's vintage veteran Johnny Bryant, would show the Yanks a thing or two. That's New York's George Brunhosel in pursuit. One of the year's biggest surprises, Brett Bodine led for a while, but crashed less than halfway. The field also included Bentley Warren, track record holder Reggie Ruggiero, pole sitter Charlie Jarzombeck, Satch Worley, Paul Radford, Jamie Tomeno, Brian Ross, George Kent, Doug Hebron, and Mike McLaughlin, whose plans ended up sitting backwards here. It came down to a battle between Bryant and Carl Bug Stevens. Bugs' Dodge Bird Dog Bryant, but nothing doing. Johnny won it. The symbol of modified racing itself, the nearly invincible man Richie Evans, was killed during practice. Each car raced with a symbolic 61 on its roof. It's hard to believe that after all those years and hundreds of races at well over 100 miles an hour, a short track would be Richie Evans' final turn of the wheel.
Yeah, Bob, probably true, but then again, it's fitting. He had dedicated his life to modifieds, and this is one of those perfect arenas for this specialized form of racing. Legend? Yeah, I'd say. 9 times NASCAR modified champ, including this year, 10 times the most popular modified driver. The 44-year-old began in 1962 and soon began piling up championships, 23 in all, and features easily above 500. Since the early 60s, the bright orange 61, the New York Gene DeWitt-owned modified, has been as much of the legend as Richie himself. The emotion of this moment is so high that the wake was forced to the Rome Civic Center Theater as thousands attended, his car buried at the resort home he shares with Billy Osmond. You know, NASCAR nor any major body has ever retired a number, but this time they ought to think about it.
Racing world will certainly miss Richie Evans. In our next segment, Thompson builds on his wingless legend at Ascot,
while Ewell wings his way to history in Oklahoma. Stay with us.
BF Goodrich TA Radials. Update. For enthusiasts. Subject. Advanced Tire Laboratories. Top speed, about 220. Tires. Experimental BF Goodrich TA Radials. Cars. Porsche 962s. The ultimate BF Goodrich Laboratories for the ultimate test of tire technology. Racing. Watch TA Radials and Porsche perform today and see the technology of tomorrow. BF Goodrich TA Radials. We make cars perform.
Somehow you always come through. You keep it going. Your pride's really showing. Nobody shines like you. Yeah, you make America work, and this fight's for you.
Here's to you, Beechwood Age, for that clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
This fight's for you.
Fuel-injected Dodge Lancers come with optional turbochargers, and you can't expect that kind of power to stay put.
It's the boys' night out, and they're cruising around. The boys' night out, and they're doing the town. They're revving up, heading out, looking for fun.
Dodge Lancers. We just can't keep them in the showroom.
Led to the 19th running of the Pacific Coast Sprint Car Nationals Saturday night at Ascot Park in Gardena, California. The 26-car star-studded field included drivers from all over the country, with Northern California's Dave Bradway and CRA regular Dean Thompson on the front row. Thompson grabs the early lead while Bill Von Helmholtz in the yellow and blue number 66 passes Jeff Haywood for third. But then Bill bicycles and nearly flips when he reaches turn 3. Bob East isn't as lucky. His mount bicycles and flips violently into the first turn fence, but Bob is okay. Half a lap after the restart, Doug Wolfgang is on his side with 3 others involved. The bumping and banging in this one resembled a stock car race at times. Here, Bubby Jones and Rip Williams touch wheels. Jones is obviously not happy with Rip's driving tactics, but in 3, Jones comes out on the short end. Steve Kinzer started 23rd, had moved up to the top 10, but blew a motor and retired. Pole sitter Bradway hits the third turn fence and flips, but is uninjured. Bill Von Helmholtz, who started third, is involved in a crash with Roger Newell. Bill blames the incident on Jim Laurie, and this gesture on the straightaway cost Von Helmholtz $200. Ron Schumann had to park his Afixco Sprinter after running in the top 5. Dean Thompson led all 50 laps and won his 4th Pacific Coast Nationals. No other driver has won more than 2. Second through 5th were this close in order: Jeff Haywood, Bubby Jones, Dave Blaney, and Rip Williams. It was Thompson's 114th feature sprint win. He says he's still thinking about retiring. Nothing definite yet, but says he probably will.
The world's only wing championship dirt cars are still going strong in Oklahoma. They performed under the lights in the world's only moon last Saturday night in Oklahoma City. Wings on these long wheelbase battleships make them the biggest open-wheel cars in existence, and quite a handful. Ken's and Mike Peters pulled his Challenger chassis down Interstate 35 to the pole and went on to lead every lap. But it wasn't quite as easy as it sounds. Gambler-mounted Shane Carson in Gambler Yellow was a constant reminder in this race.
Well, I seen him more than once, and I never let up. I just kept going as hard as I go. If he was going to get by me, I wasn't going to give it to him.
Was the track a little slippery tonight? We saw more than one guy kind of go over on their sides or on their tops, and was a little slick on the back straight?
Oh, I don't think so. I think the track was just kind of fast, and everybody was really racing hard, and things happened.
There were no injuries in the flips. The most damaging high-wire act shown here, Tracy Kramer. Texan Bob Ewell finally had his night to remember. Here in front of Carson early, but eventually he would get the happiest third place of his life. Enough for the championship.
The last 2 years, this deal went down to the last race in Dallas, and we've lost it 2 years in a row by 20 or 30 points. So cinching it 1 week early is going to be a little bit of a risk for us.
Ewell's 2,515 points, enough. One race to go. Carson is second. Third is close, 30 points between John Johnson and Peters. Tony Armstrong is fifth.
Bubby Jones drove to victory Friday night at Ascot in the final USAC CRA Challenge race of the year. Bubby was the only driver besides Rick Hood to score a repeat win in the 11-race series. In IndyCar news, Road America is not happy with the September 21st date offered by CART, but may accept it anyway if they can get a promise of a better date in the years ahead. A track spokesman told Speedweek the early August date could go to a Trans Am event. He also predicts that Road America will have a NASCAR L&R race, possibly as early as 1987. NASCAR did run at Road America back in 1956. As far as a Formula One date at the track, probably not, because it's too expensive.
Scott Brayton tested at Indianapolis this week again and experienced a problem with the low end of the Buick motor. Roberto Moreno has signed with Rick Gallus for 1986 and will join Jeff Brabham. Pancho Carter may run the third Gallus car at the 3/500s. Craco will apparently have the March factory car next year. Adrian Newley, March's chief IndyCar engineer who worked with the True Sports team last year, will join Craco as team manager.
Coming up, the Dirt Pros shine in Orange County.
And the stars come out in West Virginia.
Entertainment like never before. It's live from New York and wherever action abounds. It's Showbiz Today on CNN. Whoopee! All the glitter and glamour of the stars who shine. The hot spots and the hot shots. The inside rumors and on-target reviews. The latest showbiz news on the greatest show in town.
If it's happening in showbiz, you'll see it right here on CNN.
Catch Showbiz Today, weekday afternoons live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
Hi, I'm Brandon Maggart. You know me as Lou on Showtime series Brothers. Here's Lou dealing with cable theft. You know, my wife Flo wants me to get cable TV so she can keep her eye on me the 3 nights a week I spend with my brothers there. Some of the guys in the neighborhood says you can get cable TV kind of tapping in there. The good news is you might not have to pay for that. The bad news is you might have to pay for that because that's a federal crime. I could end up in the slammer there. Then Flo would know where I'd be 7 nights a week. Ooh.
Travel arrangements made through Eastern, the new leader in service to all the Americas, serving over 127 cities, 22 countries, and 1 magic kingdom. At Eastern, we earn our wings every day.
More than 270 cars entered last week's Eastern States 200 for modifieds. Fortunately, there were 3 classes. Still, 105 big block modifieds took a shot at getting into this major season ender. Anthony Ferriola IV dusted off the seldom used, radical, and rebuilt locomotive-like car and put it on the pole. Here's a report from Jerry Gabbins.
Sunday's surface proved too tricky for surprise pole sitter Anthony Ferriolo as he spun in front of the 48-car field in turn 1. This moved Brett Hearn and his familiar number 20 to the front row, where Hearn took control when the green reappeared on lap 13. Brett built a huge lead until he pitted during a lap 69 caution, and later was a crash victim, finding himself 2 laps down at the finish. Small block powered Eddie Haynelton, the number 10, led laps 70 through 113 when he pitted. Meanwhile, Mr. Dirt Challenger Jack Johnson in the orange 12A, who started way back in 45th, was working his way up to the field for the second time after an early pit stop. Doug Hoffman in the white 125 led laps 113 to 139 when Jumpin' Jack took control and led to the checkered with only about a half a gallon of fuel left in the tank. The win was worth $10,000 and the 1985 Mr. Dirt title for Johnson. Carl Reynolds, Charlie Rudolph, Steve Botcher, and Hoffman rounded out the top 5. Reporting for ESPN Speedweek, I'm Jerry Gappens.
The World Dirt Track Championship at Pennsboro, West Virginia was won by Freddie Smith. The V6 engine became very popular in several types of racing this year. ASA champion Dick Trickle won with the V6 many times in 1985 and says in addition to a weight break, there are other advantages to that engine.
The V6 is a lighter motor, which allows you to put more weight lower in the chassis, and the handling qualities become much better. You know, the V6, you know, I've run a V6 12 races this year, and I've won 9 of the 12 and got second in the other 3. And I would say mostly because the V6 allows the car to handle so much better in the turns. You're hurting a little bit on the straightaways for power, but you pick it up going in and out of the turns. And that's where the advantage comes.
Trickle won his second straight ASA crown after finishing runner-up 4 consecutive seasons.
And remember that V6 was successful initially in NASCAR North, then NASCAR Late Model Sportsman, IMSA, and of course the V6 was on the pole at Indianapolis. It will also be the engine in the American Racing Series new next season.
The final Gator truck race of the year was won by Charlie Baker, but Luther Burton won the championship. And Eddie Lawson emerged as AMA Superbike champion last Sunday at Carlsbad, California Raceway. Camel Pro Dirt Trackers Ricky Graham and Bubba Schobert finished 5th and 6th, respectively.
The final Formula One race of the season will be this weekend in Australia. ESPN will have coverage of that event at 10:30 a.m. Sunday morning. John Andretti has signed to drive the second IMSA BMW GTP car next year with Davy Jones as teammate. And Jochen Mass apparently has the inside track to join Jim Busby and others on the BF Goodrich IMSA team next season.
The IMSA race set for November 9th of next year at Del Mar, California Fairgrounds has been approved by the Fair Board over environmental objections from the Del Mar mayor. And the WEC Series will change its name next year. It'll be called the FIA Sports Car World Championship. 13 races are scheduled, but none in the United States. Le Mans has been moved to May 31st to avoid conflict with Formula One races.
BF Goodrich TA radials. Update. For enthusiasts. Subject, tire testing. The proving grounds, the racetracks of the world. No test track can prove out street tires like a racetrack. And no street tire technology has been more thoroughly race-proven than BF Goodrich TA radial technology. 1982. TA radials become the first and only street radials to win in class at Le Mans. 1984. TA radials win Le Mans again on a ground effects prototype car beating pure racing tires. Last year, TA radials won more professional off-road races than any other tire. More U.S. pro rallies, winning overall in all events. But even if we don't win, we always learn. The result, technology that's race-proven to bring you a complete line of TA radials for a wide variety of performance needs and driving styles. Making race cars perform helps us make your car perform. BF Goodrich TA radials. We make cars perform.
Not 12, 11, 10, or 9, but 8.8. Announcing GMAC 8.8% financing on all new 1985 S15 pickups and Jimmys by GMC Truck. Two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, long bed, short bed. Every 1985 S15 pickup and Jimmy in stock. 8.8 can save you an average of $1,000 in finance charges on S15 pickups. $1,400 on S15 Jimmys. Now's the time to see your nearby GMC truck dealer because 8.8 won't last long.
When it's icy cold and the wires are down and they're spitting sparks all over the ground, you gotta go. Can't fool around. That's why America goes with Prestone.
A fresh fill of Prestone 2 antifreeze fights freeze-up and rust-up, too. A radiator could look this bad after just 10,000 miles of driving on weak, neglected antifreeze, while the Prestone radiator looks this good. Get the Prestone difference.
America goes and goes and goes with Prestone.
The Press On Regardless SCCA Pro Rally is not the biggest of the year, but its tradition dates back to 1948. The 1985 version was held last weekend in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan near Houghton. Rod Millen is in a close battle with John Buffum for the series championship. Millen and co-driver John Belfleur strapped into their four-wheel drive Mazda RX-7 for the start. Buffum has been trying to catch Millen all year. His DNF at the third event of the year in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. 2, 1, go! Buffum in his Audi Quattro number 2 crashes during the first stage. The car suffers a cracked manifold and is down on horsepower for the remainder of the rally. It finishes second. Ironically, 3 other Audis crash at the same corner. In all, there are 26 stages covering 900 miles. 50 cars started, only 18 finished. Millen in number 1 scored his third victory of the year, giving Mazda a 12-point lead in the manufacturer's race. Clive Smith in number 7 was third overall and first in Group A. Carson City, Nevada will host the final pro rally of the year on the weekend of December 6th. And going into that event, Millen and Buffum are tied with 105 points. Whoever finishes higher at Carson City will win the championship. Clive Smith is third. Doug Shepard, who didn't compete in Michigan, but who's fourth, and Bruno Kriebik is fifth.
Drag racer Kenny Bernstein will join Bobby Hawkins as the owner of a Winston Cup team next year called King Hawkins Racing, sponsored by Quaker State and driven by Joe Ruttman. Eddie Birchwell will be driving for a new team next year, sponsored by Eastman Kodak.
An interesting name change was announced by NASCAR this week. In 1986, the Winston Cup Grand National Series will be called simply the Winston Cup Series. The Grand National name will be moved to the NASCAR Busch Late Model Sportsman Series. 1986 cars will be allowed in that series next year, in addition to those built between 1968 and 80. Not included are 1981 through 85 models. What do you think, Larry?
Well, now, I realize people are starving in Africa, and we're only talking about names here, but when you have a couple of highly respected divisions like we have that have descriptive titles to them, it seems like you ought to leave them alone. Though I must admit, no brand name is probably more deserving than that of Winston. Bill Elliott's dominance of the NASCAR season has placed a lot of teams in a tight position. For a couple, it's a major shock that they have no victories. Jack Lefebvre reports.
We read and hear about the winners, but Bill Elliott has won 10 of this year's 26 Winston Cup events, and that's left a lot of excellent drivers. And Kyle and Richard Petty and Bobby Allison, and that makes these final weeks very important.
I guess you think about it every week. The main reason is to get into Winston and, to get on the winner's circle. We really need to win a race. We're 7th in the points. We could possibly move up a couple, and, a win would help you there. But, the main reason for winning the race right now is to get on the winner's circle for next year and hopefully be able to race that off weekend in Atlanta and the Winston.
Rudd has been a frequent contender, but with time rapidly running out, he's no longer interested in merely coming close.
We don't really have much to lose, and we really need a win right now, and the win right now would mean more to us than a third place in the point standing. So we're really going for it and trying to, hang the car all the way out, running a real low gear everywhere we go, and it's been working good for us, but we haven't been able to win. We've run second, third, but we're sort of hung up there.
And it's a gnawing kind of pressure. Jeff Bodine describes it well.
That kind of pressure starts right at Daytona in February to win. That pressure of winning is always there until you win, and then it goes away. Then it seems like the next win comes easier. You've heard that a lot. The same with the pole. Once you get one, the second one comes easier. Yeah. But the pressure to win is always there right from February on till Riverside.
And never more than when you're down to your last 2 chances. In Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Jack Lefebvre for ESPN Speedweek.
Here's this week's trivia question. Who was the last driver besides Richie Evans to win the NASCAR Modified Championship? A. Red Farmer, B. Bobby Allison, C. Bug Stevens, D. Fred DeSaro, or E. Jerry Cook? Larry will have the answer in a moment.
The caravan, a traditional journey, unmerciful as the desert sun. But now there's the revolutionary Dodge Caravan. With room for heavy burdens or up to 8 people. A 5-year or 50,000-mile protection plan and civilized features like front-wheel drive, which is why Dodge Caravan has no equal under the sun.
We're here to win. Well, I like more the very fast circuit.
Any period of time, you're going to have a couple of crashes.
Circuit, the feature-length motion picture, now available for your home library. Featuring Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Jeff Brabham, Teo Fabi, Al Hobart, and a cast of thousands. Circuit, it's not available anywhere else. Call 1-800-543-8000, operator 332 on VHS or Beta.
Sunday, ESPN has auto racing, live hockey, and more. The Formula One Australian Grand Prix is first with coverage that puts you right in the race. Later, the Philadelphia Flyers host the Los Angeles Kings in our live Sunday night shootout. We deliver the NHL's best, and we're your network for exclusive coverage of the America's Cup. We'll preview our chances to bring back the Cup in an hour-long primetime special all Sunday.
Here's the answer to this week's trivia question. Red Farmer was a champ, but way back in '56. Bobby, believe it or not, Allison won twice in the mid-'60s. Bug Stevens, 3-time champ, same decade. The late Fred DeCero, king in '70, but since that time, only Evans and Jerry Cook have worn the crown. The Cookie Monster, now a NASCAR official, won 6 times, the most recent, 1977.
The 6th and final race of the Can-Am Series will be run this weekend, and a series champion will be crowned. This is St. Petersburg, Florida, site of the event. It'll be on this course, in the streets and along the waterfront. Rick Miskiewicz will be going for his 4th consecutive win. He's been dominant since the September 1st Lime Rock race. He even overcame this incident at Mossport and won in September. The only other driver who can win the championship is Horst Kroll, who checkered the series opener at Mossport June 2nd, but is only 9 points behind Rick. Bruce McInnes is the other winner this year. He's expected this weekend in a rebuilt car that was crashed at Lime Rock. 30 cars are expected at St. Pete to top off a series whose future was very much in doubt until shortly before the first race. 2 or 3 more Can-Ams are expected to be run next year. The 1986 schedule will be announced Sunday night. And we'll have a report on who wins the Can-Am race and title at St. Pete next week on Speedweek. And all the other major news items from the world of motorsports. I'm Bob Jenkins.
And I'm Larry Newber. Bob and John AM this Sunday morning here on ESPN. We leave you this week with more of the Pacific Coast Sprint Car Nationals.
Has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich, makers of high-performance TA radials. We make cars perform.
Again, everybody, I'm David Sullivan with a Sports Center update, and the #1 team in college football